What is happening, fishers? Dean here from Untraceable Fishing, here once again with Don from Paul Moria Fishing Tackle. And welcome to Tackle Tuesday. So tonight we're going to look at the world of braid, guys. In the table in front of us, we have JDB Braid. But before we go into JDB Braid itself, let's look at the benefits and why you would use braid and the differences between the braid. I think Don's going to help us out with that one.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think, and unless you've been hiding under a rock somewhere, most anglers know what braid is nowadays.
Of course.
I think a lot of teenagers and guys in the young 20s have never fished with nylon.
Yeah, only
this
fished
is
with
the
braid.
only line they know. So it's very much taken the South African and the world market by storm.
Yeah, taking fishing to new heights as well.
It
in
has.
some reasons,
You know, we're catching bigger fish on light to tackle nowadays.
Correct.
And we're casting further than we cast before.
Yeah, can reach some inaccessible places with the braid and things
our
like that.
rods have changed, our reels have changed. So the braid has changed the whole game.
The whole dynamics of fishing.
Very much so.
Correct.
But getting into braid, what makes a good and a bad braid?
Yeah.
And I think the first thing is like what it's made out of. And
Correct.
all the braids we're looking at here are polyethylene. All braids in the world tend to be polyethylene. Which is the same stuff as your checkers packets.
Yeah, so the guidance on polyethylene is pretty much a plastic, Don?
Plastic, yeah, it's plastic.
Okay.
It's a simple plastic. And just like you get cheap checkers packets and you get good quality ones.
Yeah, you get different grades of plastic.
You get different grades of plastic. You also get different grades of PE that they use to make the braid with.
Correct.
And the two big ones are Spectra, which most braids are made out of. And then the more expensive exclusive factory is Dyneema.
Dyneema, that's correct.
And then there's one other one Dower uses, but I forget the name.
Oh, that's fine. Dower, we'll try to remember your name in the comments below.
Braid Grand, which we haven't really seen locally much yet. Yeah. What I'm keen to try. So we'll see how that goes. So it's got to be made out of good stuff.
Yeah.
And early days when I first started fishing braid, they were 4-strand.
Correct.
And they're still semi-popular with the guys in the freshwater stuff.
And the guys that is some estuary fishing and things like that.
Yeah, not as much anymore. Yeah. It's rapidly disappearing.
Okay.
The reason for that, it is good at cutting through weed in it.
Yeah.
It's quite a hard, tough braid.
Yeah.
But hang it cut your fingers like crazy.
Okay.
It wasn't round.
Yeah.
Didn't cast as well. So for an all intents and purposes, what we're talking about here tonight is 8-strand braid. Or a bit more.
Yeah. 8, 9. Okay. I see some of the guys are
up to 16.
Up to 16 now.
Okay.
Braid. Look at that, guys.
So basically your braided line, it goes through like picture 8 looms and it's spiraling.
All woven together.
Yeah, woven together. That's where a lot of quality differences come in. How tightly it's woven, how consistently it's woven down the length of the 300 yards or 300 meters.
I was just going to mention to you, won't the consistency of the weave, that should make a big difference.
That makes a massive difference.
If you tighten the bottom 3 inches and then loose again, you know what I mean? You're going to have different...
and some braid you run through your fingers and it feels super smooth.
And some feel sharp.
And others feels quite rough almost.
Different textures.
So there are different textures out there. For one of a wooden 16-strand just be the best braid in the market?
I don't see always. Why? Like, I don't, for me personally, not the more strands doesn't mean the braid's going to be better.
Okay, well, there's a flip side to it. The more strands you have, the thinner each strand gets.
It's correct.
So you get to a point where you're actually losing the advantage. The shape's round enough in 8-strand.
Yeah. 16
strands even more round, but any nick or any rock or something like that will go through.
Cutting through those strands quick, easier. Yeah.
So for all intents and purposes, guys, 8-strand or 9-strand is pretty much where it's at nowadays.
Yeah.
All the JDB braids here we're going to talk about tonight are all 8-strand.
Correct.
Across the board. And it's good stuff.
And then also the coatings on the braid can make a difference too, Don, am I correct?
A lot of braids, particularly the early ones, but also some brands still keep it where they've got a waxy type coating on them. And certainly as you're casting your first few sessions,
quite nice.
It's a bit slicker through the guards
but slowly wears off.
Wears off pretty quickly sometimes. Some braids, 2 or 3 sessions, and you can feel it's getting rougher. And the coating's gone.
Disappearing, things like that.
Yeah, so I don't make a massive deal about the coating. To me, I think the finish of a braid is probably the most important.
The profile of the braid.
I want a braid to last me a year plus.
Yeah, it's not cheap stuff, so you want to get your money's worth value out of it.
You're looking at 400 Rand plus for a decent
braid,
300 meters of braid. And that's like entry level.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a hit in the pocket.
That is, especially if you're fishing in the bricks and snapping up every now and again, which you don't want to be using too much of it.
You hook one good fish and it spools you, bonk, and there goes
400, 600, 800, 1,000 Rand.
Exactly. So making the right choice there. some braids, literally, as you spool them, you'll see the color start
on your fingers. I've seen that. Pinks and yellows.
On the actual rollers, all
even on your eyes, even on the eyes and the rod, your guards.
Your rod. A lot of guys freak about that.
Yeah.
To me, it actually shows the braid's not that well coated.
Yeah.
Or not that well put together.
The color hasn't impregnated.
I wouldn't say it's the be all and end all.
No.
Some braids that I've got one that's faded almost to white from a green.
Yeah.
Still fishes okay.
I've got a pink braid it's white. It's not
white.
pink anymore.
Yeah, no, it happens. But it's just a little bit of a pain.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
And kind of indication that the materials aren't like top of the range type stuff. So
I know some guys, they coat once all the strands are together, they put a coating of the whole lot. But the other manufacturers, that each of those strands actually impregnated themselves.
The high tech of that is a bit weird. And I mean, originally your Berkeley braids were fused with heat.
Heat, correct. So the old fire line and stuff like that.
Fire line and, the black velvet, which is unfortunately no longer really available. So, so braids got quite an interesting history, guys. It shouldn't confuse you, though. I mean, let's get down to the basics here. 8-strand braid from a decent supplier is fairly good stuff. It should be able to pull fish. And
it should hold up to some abrasion.
Absolutely. And highly abrasive resistant force diameter. But when I'm choosing a braid, what separates a 400 Rand one from a 500, 700 Rand, 1,000 Rand braid?
So I think it's come down to a few things, like castability of the braid, the knot retention on the braid, the abrasion resistance on the braid. Is it going to hold for some merchants? Is it going to hold this color, not going to hold this color?
It's a tricky one too, because it's a kind of thing you can't pick up and quantify in your hand.
No. You pretty much got to fish it, I think.
So I'd say probably quality control. You don't get bad batches in the bedded braids.
Are you getting the same braid every time you're buying the braid?
Or a weak spot somewhere
in the braid,
or a bad batch. And suddenly it's just snapping for no reason. So better quality braids, the more you spend. They also seem to be, in my experience, a good deal more durable. We'll get into that a bit later. But
correct,
I think the more you spend, the longer it's going to last if you don't lose it all.
Correct.
So sometimes penny wise, pound foolish, the old-fashioned saying.
Yeah, don't be like me. I've spent hundreds of Rand buying inferior braid, guys. I'm not going to mention names of the brands, but I've probably wasted more money buying, I'm going to call it what it is, rubbish braid than spending the money on good quality braid.
And sometimes you see these things on eBay and that kind of thing. It sound amazing.
Excited,
it's Ching Chong brand.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you're getting.
And it's just going to disappoint you.
You've got no idea what you're getting. Okay, which kind of gets us to the brand tonight, JDB.
JDB in front of us.
JDB has been my braid of choice now for about 2 years.
Okay.
And actually, no, 3 years. 3 years I've been on JDB now. I started off with JDB Camo. I used 50 pound.
Okay.
I got sick and tired of 30 pound snapping in the rocks of another brand. So I'm going to go up to 50 pound now, chasing black steer and rust.
Life changing.
It's a little too thick, eh?
You can actually go down a little bit less than the poundage.
The JDB braids are strong.
Yeah, I know that from first-hand experience.
So when they say like a 50 pound, that isn't camo, which is now only available in a leader.
Yeah.
But that's fairly similar to, I think, your Ultratech. Yeah. As far as its consistency goes. Nice supple braid. I even use it for lure casting.
Okay.
Beautiful braid, but the 50 pound was just a bit of an overkill. No,
JDB have definitely taken their strength of their braids. Listen, guys, I'm a lightweight, but besides that, I fish 50 pound on one of my reels. I can't snap the stuff.
Yeah.
I know you're going to laugh. You can say it's, no, I can't snap the stuff.
Yeah.
That's honest truth. I have to get someone to help me snap up. That just shows you, okay, I'm only like 60-something kilos, but...
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's the way it goes.
But getting what I found, particularly the rocky environments, guys, the river type stuff is a totally different feel. We'll touch on that briefly. But the guys fishing rock and surf, you're fishing in the gullies, you're looking for reef fish like mussel cracker and, things like bluefish are no-brainers.
Yes, they are.
Even Galyun, you can pull them up pretty confidently on most braids. But with your bigger fish in the rocks, that's when you're pushing your braids limits.
The dirty fighters, your white steamrus, or your white steamrus, your silver steamrus, your black mussel cracker, things like that. Even they can get their dirty fighters as well,
Good old steam trainer.
Yeah.
So what I found from that 50 pound is switch to DNA, which is pretty much the crowning king of the JDB braids.
They're best of the best,
What's different about it to the other ones on the table is purely 100% Dyneema.
Yeah.
And there's no color fade there. There's no weird coatings. The material is the high quality stuff. It's the most expensive material you can make a braid out of. It is not super thin.
Yeah.
I've been using 30 pound there. I'd say it's stronger than the 50 pounds.
Yeah.
It's and that 30 pound I've used in confidence. Like one of my favorite spots, there's a good deal of dolomite boulders, and there's an outer reef about 50 meters out.
Yeah.
I constantly go straight over that reef.
And you can pull everything straight to you.
Not a stress in the world. I wouldn't have thought, my braid's not going to handle it.
Yeah.
So a 30 pound, that's what we call an American spec braid.
So it's not going to break the 30
pound. You know, everything in America has to be bigger and better. It's like the monster trucks and the 4x4s, everything's bigger.
Yeah.
And there, a 30 pound would probably equate to a 40 or 50 pound in the other bodies.
Okay.
So
you can go a bit lighter.
In my experience, you've got to find the right diameter.
More than the breaking strain.
More than the breaking strain. Like about a 0.28, 0.3 mil, for me seems to fish best. I don't have to, I can go that around my bionic finger. I can cast a 5 or 6 ounce, and I know I'm not going to have any weird stuff happening around the bionic finger. I know I can pull a big fish, but I'm still not compromising my distance too much. And the thinner than that stuff, I just don't feel confident with. As soon as I hit reefs and that, I'm getting snap-offs. So just like we used to fish with marlin in the old days, anything thinner than 0.4 was generally too light.
0.45, 0.5 is where you want it to be, depending on your ratio. Where you
minimum 0.4.
4, yes, yeah.
So braid-wise, like 0.25, 0.3, somewhere around there. What I will say about the JDB braid range is they're generally pretty honest in the diameters, particularly across the range. Some brands make horrendous claims about
that their braid's so thin and
super thin and double the breaking strain. Not quite, guys. If anything, these ones are honest in diameter, but they understate their strength as far as breaking strain goes.
But that's fine. We're happy with that.
So DNA, I know 20 pound, the guys have been using this for catching even bronzies. They literally pull 200 kg bronzies at 20 pound. More in the surf type environment.
Yes, so it's a bit cleaner.
But still,
that's super strong stuff.
Braid. I'd say my 30 pound probably snaps at a 50 pound.
As much as that,
Yeah, as much as that. And
I can believe it.
It makes an amazing leader as well. It's also available in a leader. But it's not cheap. I think you're looking at for 300 yards here. You've got to watch out. Some braids come out at 300 yards and 300 meters. Most of these are 300 yards, which is about 275 meters.
That's correct.
It's a little shorter than you'd expect sometimes.
But it's more than enough.
For most aspects. It is more than enough. I'm also, that 50 pound, I'm using it as a backing nowadays. That camo.
Okay.
So I'm just running on top of that. And I've got like 3 reels with 50 meters in this one.
And you just swap it around, do what you need to.
So that's it's my top.
Your top shot, whatever you want to call it.
Top 250, 300 meters, that's a count. You know, the rest.
It's just backing.
If I see it, I'm happy, but I don't often see it.
Correct. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sits in the cupboard when it needs to be used.
I don't do bronzes in it too much. I like black steering rust in that. And
they're not going to run you 300 meters. No.
Not at all. No. Very few fish do, actually. Very, very few fish do. Okay, so yes, probably the best braid in the market, in my opinion.
In our country,
I've used so far.
I'll agree with you there.
What I dig about it now, 2 years on it.
It's still going strong.
Probably had about 50, 60 solid sessions of like full weekend sessions, you know.
Been fished hard.
In the roughest, rockiest terrain I can think of. I'm down to probably about 220, 230 meters now.
A bit of breakage and stuff like that.
The only breakages I'm getting are above water. Like a little while ago I was reefed and there's a reef exposed above the water. There the barnacles got
like a dry cut-off.
Dry cut-off. In the water I've had zero issues. My leader and
that's good.
My leader and my knots go long before my braid goes. So highly recommend the DNA if you can get there. But $700 is a bit heavy on the pocket.
So for the guys that like DNA might be a bit expensive, I think JDB do some other more affordable choices.
As we mentioned, you know, there are some braids. You can get a good braid for 400 Rand. But JDB is a better braid. And they were retailing at 600 odd Rand.
That was just a bit out of my price range before.
A little bit heavy.
I was very surprised when you told me the price earlier.
And the Ultra Tech and the Ultra Tough, which are the other two we're going to discuss next, have dropped down to 499, which is 100 Rand more than most of the budget.
Puts it into the realm of affordable,
And considering you're probably going to push 2 seasons out of it, pretty much worth it. I've had some braids I've changed after 6 months. I just wasn't happy with it.
I've had some I've changed after 1 fishing session.
I'm busy. I'm busy testing one at the moment.
We're not going there, guys. We're not going there.
I won't do a review on it.
No. You don't want to see ugly words come out of my mouth now.
Okay. But Ultra Tech, compared to the DNA, is a lot more supple braid. DNA is hard stuff.
It is quite
sharp.
I call it sharp.
It's stiff. It's like kind of like Maxima used to be compared to Siglon.
Siglon, correct.
Siglon was lovely and supple. This is hard stuff. Why would I want a supple braid?
Oh, supple braid, maybe if you're doing a bit of lure fishing, maybe. If you're fishing a bit more finesse type style.
Yeah, I find in lure casting in particular, it just seems to feel better through the guides, doesn't it? It just feels a little slicker, almost. All braids are no stretch and that, so there's not that's kind of a personal thing to some degree. And a while ago I was saying, I've got a few wind knots on this. And then I was actually thinking about it. Wind knots are a thing that a lot of us get. Mostly lure casting. Yeah. I've never experienced it in bait fishing.
No, I think you got too much weight to the sink and stuff to cause it.
If you cast a 2 ounce into a howling wind, you can.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
So generally it's also when you're getting a bit tired. When I'm lure casting and my technique of my retrieves going a bit wobbly.
I think a lot of wind knots also caused by guys that last 10 or 15 meters, they're getting a bit sloppy on their retrieving and they're putting slack line on.
You know what I mean? It's just slack line on. And what I do find a supple braid, a little bit easier to work that out.
Oh, yes.
Where your harder braids,
once it's cut in, it's cut in.
You battle to get through. So the Ultratech, good stuff. What I quite enjoy about it, goes right down to I think an 8 pound.
Oh, it's very light, eh?
All the way up to I think a 50 pound. It's not a shark braid.
Yes. More like.
But for the Okies casting lure.
Or something to use off the surf maybe. Some surf fishing.
And particularly the guy doing river. Eh?
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful river braid. I think it's a wonderful freshwater braid as well.
Yeah.
And the bass boys should get a lot of usage out of it.
Yeah.
And what I like about these guys is they don't do a million colors.
Yeah.
Like
simple.
In Ultratech, you got a dark green or a yellow. Bang.
That's all you need though.
But it's good stuff.
Yeah.
And what we spoke about Joe earlier, the DNA, bright green, dull green, black.
Black in some of the poundages. Yeah, I see
black is beautiful in my one.
It does actually look quite nice in some of the
Makes me think I'm using black velvet, but I'm not.
I just can't see the stuff when I'm tying it, so that's my problem.
I don't know. I found that, the weird thing is I found the black I can actually see pretty well.
Is it? Yeah.
The black stands out nicely. Even against the skyline there. I quite enjoy black.
I've got to go for this like brightest green for my eyes.
I thought so too. And then
on the other side, I see Ultra Tough.
Ultra Tough has got a massive reputation.
I'm sure it's tough stuff.
The league guys, the competitive angler, this has been the go-to braid across South Africa for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
The guys love this stuff. Again, even 20 or 30 pound putting really big fish. It's not as thin.
Yeah.
So kind of more similar to DNA,
but more like probably more abrasion resistant than what the Ultratech is.
Put it this way. We'll get into a Q&A just now, but if I'm fishing like a normal setup, say anything between a 3 and about a 5 ounce, a 30 pound in DNA more than enough. Possibly a 30 pound in the Ultratech. 30 pound, more than enough. But if I was fishing bricky areas,
maybe 40
I'd
pound.
Probably go more to
10
pounds.
Just I agree with you there.
A little more
confidence.
Because it's thinner.
Yes, There's more the diameter you're matching up than
the diameter I'm looking at. The breaking strain means very little to me. I'm looking at diameter.
That's correct.
And you need to remember that when you're buying, guys. And a lot of beginners will buy too heavy a braid. Like they'll put a 50 or 65 pound on. If you're really putting hard and you're targeting really big fish, that's got its place. But for a guy catching blacktail and that kind of thing, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, so one of the guys on one of the chats, like he only fishes 80 pounds for his edibles. And I was like, I don't think it's necessary. Like even for shark fishing, I don't think it's necessary.
How do you snap that stuff off?
I can't even snap a 40 pound off, so I've got no freaking clue.
Yeah,
so,
no, with you.
I'm not saying it's wrong if that's his choice to do, but to me it's a bit heavy, you know what I mean? If you're fishing a good quality braid.
Another thing I found, we spoke about how supple that is and how this is a bit stiffer in that. I think Ultra Tough is also about halfway between
the two. Okay.
I do find the DNA is a bit hard. Your knotting, you've got to watch it a little more.
Yeah.
It tends to be almost too strong. I do have a bimini twist in the end of mine, make a loop. That loop tends to cut through even most braid leaders. It's too strong.
If I run DNA, then I'll run everyone knows the pure bobbin is my favorite knot. I'll run my bobbin a bit longer, my knot a bit longer, just to give it more, I don't know what the right word is. So it's not too much pressure in over 1 or 2 inches. I'll rather run it, I'll spread it out, but just to stop that cut off here.
Yeah. So you got to watch your knotting. I think a more supple braid does knot easier.
Yes.
You need less wraps. It just seems to bite in itself a bit better.
That's 100%, yeah.
And I sometimes have the theology that with a hard braid, I must have a soft leader or vice versa.
Yeah.
So that the two don't quite, they must be identical.
They must marry into each other, yeah.
Yeah, they must bite into each other almost.
Yeah.
That's why I still like a mono leader sometimes. Yeah. I think a mono leader bites a lot better. And guys, again, Ultra Tough, plain yellow.
Yeah, that's all you need though.
That's all you need. 50 pound, I could pull a bus.
Easily. 2 buses maybe.
2 buses. The stuff's extremely strong. And I think for $4.99, it's like for any rock and surf angler price choice. Another thing, just when it comes to choosing a braid, a lot of guys will buy a really nice reel like a Saragossa, something like that.
And they'll put
cheap braid
inferior braid on it.
Or like no-name brand stuff. And I'm like, gee, guys, it's like buying a Ferrari and putting retreads on.
Yeah.
You know, spoil yourself with a decent quality of braid. You will feel the difference in the quality of fishing.
Well, at the end of the day, the braid's the connection between you and the fish. You can have a
it's vital.
100 Rand rod or a 10,000 Rand rod. If your braid snaps, your fish is gone.
Yeah, and we spoke about leader briefly. I know we've got the original old... It's quite funny.
Casting leader.
The funny thing is, all braids a few years ago were called casting braids.
Braids, yeah.
I don't know what the difference is. Braids are braid.
Braid, yeah.
But the early stuff with the JDB, good reputation for the deep sea guys.
Yes, yeah.
Good value. And certainly strong as a leader. The guys enjoyed it. Quite hard, tough stuff. Then
the camo covert came out.
The covert camo, good stuff.
Very
a little
nice
more
stuff.
supple.
Yeah. I like this. Is my favorite leader.
Lovely knot one. I'd say they're probably my go-to, particularly if I was using like a harder braid like a DNA. Then DNA also available now.
With their own leader out, correct.
For the guys who prices look a bit odd there as well, because you're paying almost double the price for DNA.
Yeah.
But it is 100 meters versus 50 meters.
50 meters, correct. I was going to say, there's double the amount of braid on the reel.
At the end of the day, probably worth it. The guy fishing very seriously, DNA is probably one of the go-to braids. If you don't believe me, just check the forums and what the oaks are using online. The DNA has certainly been very well accepted in the last couple of years.
I can hands down vouch for it. It's made it. I've changed over to DNA with a DNA leader or a camo leader. And it's hands down changed my fishing. I can vouch for it.
It's become my trusted go-to.
Yeah.
I must admit, I'd probably lean towards an Ultra Tech for lure casting.
Yeah, no, correct. I agree with you there. Yeah.
So they are just because it's more supple feel to me.
It's a bit easier.
I'm a feel person to a large degree, but for my rock and surf setup, especially in the bricks, go-to stuff. Big spools, guys. Big money.
Big money, but you're saving money also.
Okay. Why would you bother to spend 1.5, almost $2,000 on we're looking at 1,000 yards of braid?
Or depending on the guys, some guys, if you got a hell of a big reel, if you're fishing for crazy big fish, you might want to put 600 meters, 800 meters on your reel. Some guys don't want to join knots.
Yeah, if you've got a ghost at 20,000 or 25,000, I mean,
you got to buy 3 of those or 2 of those to put on now.
I don't like the idea of having knots down my...
No, every knot's a weakness.
Like some guys put 300 meters of this, then the fancy knot to the... Normally they use a thicker braid to join thin to thin. So often you'll have 4 knots down there before you even get up to lead knot.
Correct.
I just don't like that. And not if I'm targeting sharks in that. I'd rather have a full run straight through.
I agree with you there. To me, that the less knots you can have in your rig and down to your drop, the better.
So if you've got the budget for it, buying in bulk does make sense. You are saving a fair bit. What also is quite cool there is that you can spool up a reel exactly.
There's no wastage.
You can put 352 meters on to get to
you don't have that extra 30, 40, 50 meters of wasted braid that you couldn't put on your reel.
And for the beginners, if you're getting lots of loops and we're not in that, you probably overfilling your reel slightly. Your braid has to be spooling pretty tight.
Yeah.
We do have spooling machines here we use, but it has to go on tight, guys. You can't put a braid on super loose like you used to in old days. It's got to go on with tension. And you've just got to be under that lip. You can't go beyond that angle, that final angle of your spool. I think if you start getting there, if I get a wind knot, I normally cut my top 10 meters off.
You'll probably find once the guys spool, they normally spool their reels up. The first 2 or 3 throws they get a wind knot, they put too much braid on the reel.
So just be aware of that. Also on the other end for beginner anglers, if you lose a bit of braid and you start getting less and less in that spool, you're starting to kill your casting distance quite a lot. Take it off, put some backing on, even if it's mono backing. Put some nylon or whatever backing on
just to push the braid forward
up again. So keep it optimally filled if you can. Correct. It makes a huge difference. Care of your braid? Do you rinse your braids afterwards in that?
I do. I always rinse my reel under fresh water. So I try not to put any chemicals on, unless they safe chemicals for the braid. So
I must admit, I don't really. I tend to give my reels a brush off for the sand, and then look, if they've got dunks in it, I'll certainly get them.
I like them to spray with the hose, fresh water with the hose pipe, and that's me.
But I haven't got sealed reels like you have. I've got the,
not all of them. Only one of them are sealed.
Okay, so so you don't really have to do anything particularly special.
No.
Braid, I noticed, does fade a bit in sunlight, so just be careful leaving your reels on the boats. UV, I think UV does affect anything.
Yeah. Otherwise, just grab one of those little line covers and like piece of elastic and pop
your spool protectors. That's one of the reasons you need. They're not just there to keep your
line in place.
They're also protected against their lines.
100%.
So good things. Yeah, so guys, JDB Braid, if you haven't tried it yet, highly, highly recommend it.
Check it out, guys. I definitely invest in. Get yourself one spool and you won't be sorry.
We haven't done a star rating because we haven't reviewed individual ones.
Yeah.
But I cannot give a 5-star rating for JDB.
I agree with you 100%.
It's not the cheapest in the market.
But it's gonna turn your fishing around.
But I'd say its value is tremendously high, particularly its longevity and its consistent performance. So can't fault it.
Those better fish that you have been losing, you're not going to lose as many of them anymore. I promise you that.
It's also excuses. You know, it's, I had a bad batch of bread. No. This stuff you're not getting.
There's no bad batch.
You don't get the... I've yet to actually have a guy say, I don't like it. Yeah. It's everyone who's tried it has kind of been converted. And I've converted lots of guys.
There's nothing worse, guys. You fishing with guys, like you put him onto a fish and you hook the fish and you give your rod over to him. And in the back of your head, you're thinking, hope my braid's going to hold, hope my braid's going to hold. With this, you know your braid's going to hold.
I want to spend a little black steelers a while ago at night, a few years back on a 30-pound cheaper braid. And the guy goes down, and just lift the tip to sit the circle hook, get it in, boom, pop,
goes the leader.
Just in front of the eye. And I'm like, but I haven't even reefed this line yet. And since JDB's come into my life, I haven't experienced that once.
Yeah, we had a trip down to Hamburg a couple of months ago. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 reggie ons.
Yeah.
I landed 2. 5, my braid popped 5 of them. Different brand of braid. Change to this.
Yeah.
I haven't lost a fish yet.
No. That's
okay. That's honest truth, guys. That's honest truth.
So big stamp of approval. Check it out. Highly recommended. And I think as far as the JDB goes, it's a wrap. But we had a Q&A this week. So
yes. So from Terran Hendricks from Cape Town. So Terran Hendricks fishes with a 12 or 14-foot rod with a Big Boss 8000. He's keen to target steamruss. I'm assuming it's white steamruss or West Coast steamruss. I'm just putting 2 together.
False probably white steamruss.
White steamruss. Yeah. So what Western enough for that?
Big nose.
Yeah, so big nose grunter, guys. So he's asked us what braid and what braided leader, like what sort of poundage should he be fishing with?
Yeah, well to start off with 12 foot, unless it's quite a heavy 12 foot, I'm assuming like a 4-5 ounce rod. An 8,000 is quite a big reel.
Yeah.
Your Boss 8,000 probably better suited on your 14-foot rod.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah.
So you might not be getting optimal balance on the 12-foot. So be aware of that.
Yeah.
You've also got to marry your sinker to the setup properly. Yeah. So if that rod's rated like 2 to 4 ounce, stick to a 2 to 4 ounce sinker. Those ratings are really important. And rods also have a braid recommendation on
correct. It'll be stamped on the rod.
They say 20 to 40 pound.
Yeah.
Kind of worthwhile sticking with.
Yeah.
For most guys. They don't just put that there for fun and make it look smart. But what kind of breaking strain do you think we should?
Listen, white steamruss, if you're fishing a good quality braid, DNA, the guy he doesn't have a lot of fishing experience, so I'd fish 20 or 30 pounds. So I think to me at 30 pounds, if you're fishing good quality braids, sufficient.
I think a 30 pound for most anglers
is sufficient.
For edibles is the go-to.
Yeah.
So most of us
I'd like to put him on I'd say 30 pound for him.
If a good muscle cracker and black steam was high up on my list of trophy fish I want,
maybe step up slightly.
Then I maybe go to 40 pound or something like that. But 30 pound more than enough.
And then
you're looking for distance there as well, though.
Yeah. So
occasionally I might drop to a 20 pound.
Yeah, that's where the 20 pound came to mind because I don't know where he's fishing.
But you need that experience to handle that.
That's what I'm saying. So
you've got to watch your drag.
For a new angler, I'd say 30 pound. That's my opinion.
In saying that as well, I lived in Somerset West for several years. And on the West Coast, and Saldanha, those areas, I get some amazing white steamruss.
Yeah, some big fish there.
Didn't see too many white steamruss out of False Bay.
Yeah.
False Bay, you struggle.
Yeah.
I know as you go around Huncliffe, those areas, Betty's Bay, I think they're more prevalent. But also the average size of the steamruss there is about 2 to 5 kilos.
Yeah.
They're not monster fish. So your 8,000 might be a little heavy.
Yeah.
You might want to go for a rod that can cast only up to a 3 or 4 ounce sinker and about a 5,000-6,000 size reel. As a second setup, possibly.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to buy something else, but a lighter setup
will assist you a bit more.
Yeah. Your steamruss are a little sinker shy.
Yeah.
You don't want. We often fish with them with a running sinker.
Yeah. When they pick up, you don't want to feel any tension.
Not fixed. So wire grab sinker, not the idea for them. Hook size. We're talking steamruss.
Oh, looks and hook size, anything for white steamruss, depending on the size of the fish and the fishing J hook or circle hook, obviously they're different. I'd fish anything from a 2 to a 4 up to a 6 for bigger fish, maybe. That would be my choice.
No, they're not monster big. They're quite easy to hook.
Even a 1 you could probably get away with.
Very, very rubbery lip, which is quite easy to hook. They're the one fish I probably wouldn't target in a circle hook.
Yeah.
Pig nose, aka white steam bass, they love to run in.
Yeah.
And so as you're angling on the beach, for instance, if you suddenly get a bunch of slack, run back and strike.
He's coming straight towards you.
The in-run is very common.
And then hold on because he's going to turn around and go straight the other direction.
And try to target them where there's a bit of sand with a bit of weed around it. They love sand strips amongst the rocks as well. Good strong fish. I'd say about a 3-4 should be enough for most.
Yeah.
They're not
good quality hook.
They're not a hook straightner.
Yes, I know.
Just a nice, sharp, good quality hook should be good. You mentioned a leader.
Yes, also no, so sorry. John asked about the leader. What leader? I'd probably just fish a mono leader myself.
I'd probably go for
my choice.
Mono leader. Very bluntly, I'd possibly go with no leader.
Yeah, just your braid straight to swivel.
My braid straight to swivel is probably your strongest junction. If you're starting out and you're battling with your FG knots and you're not getting this
Keep
right,
it simple.
and it keeps on snapping there, just decent normal fishermen's, not few more reps than usual, about 8 reps, and throw into your swivel. That's your strongest junction.
Yeah.
You're not going to go wrong there. And those steam bass they're not like a mussel cracker that dive you in a reef.
No.
They're normally a clean running fish.
Yeah. You're going to do long blistering runs, but they're clean runs.
They're clean runs. And they're amazing fish to target. When you do find them, they're often in a shoal.
Yeah.
They're one of my favorite angler fish. I really enjoy them.
Yeah.
So, and trace length, what kind of trace length are you thinking there?
Well, depending on the sea. If the sea is pretty much flat, quite flat and calm down that side. So I'd fish 60 centimeters to 90 centimeters. A nice long trace.
It varies a bit, but I generally like a fairly long trace, like minimum 50 centimeters.
You want it to move around a bit, some movement,
Okay, so we've got like a 3-4 hook.
And
I'd probably say the hook-wise maybe match to the size of your bait.
Well, that was the next question for Teron. What bait would you use to target the species?
Number one bait I'd probably say is your crab.
Crab. I don't know if they get bloodworm exactly where he's down that side. I think, or wonderworm.
You might get bloodworm, but I know your little beach crabs.
Oh, yes.
Ghost crabs. That's probably the go-to bait for them.
I think anything natural. So like a prawn, a crab.
Yeah, they enjoy prawn. They enjoy squid as well. Nicely beaten squid. They'll take white mussel. They enjoy that as well.
Soft baits.
Soft baits. Don't make your bait monster big for them.
Nice long. I prefer nice long slender. Lots of movement and things like that.
Okay, we've got a bait there. We're casting this bait. So we're trying to find some whitewater, gutter, hopefully some eelgrass around. They love eelgrass. Yeah. Because they like to, they're foragers. They're looking for crabs and that kind of thing amongst eelgrass.
On top of shallow sandbanks as well.
Sandbars as well.
Yeah.
Okay. How do they bite?
Well, the experience I've had, listen, either hit you with your feet when you get one of those wild ones that just come through at full speed, or you're going to get a very finicky little pickup, guys, very gentle. You got to almost ease it on. I don't know how to explain exactly how to explain it, guys.
Most of the time, I often get like a bump.
Bump, yeah. It's like he's feeding and some slack line.
And then, there's no ways, but suddenly I'm getting slack line. And I'm slowly backing it up. And hopefully you get that dive down. And then you're on. And
then once every now and again, just hit you flat. With your feet.
Occasionally they just hit you
flat on your feet.
They fight fantastically. They're called the steam train of the sea. They're a species well worth targeting, I think, for any angler.
Yeah. I think one of the best fights you're going to get.
Yeah, one of the guys tells a short story.
Yeah.
They're fishing at probably one of the best beaches in our area, Chilona Mouth, from the Cases Beach side. And they hooked into this, an old toppy story, 12-foot rod, multiplier, and that kind of thing. And they hooked a steam bass. The guy said it was about 1.5 meters long.
Yeah.
Played it for 2 hours. Couldn't get it over a sandbar.
Yeah.
Eventually his line snapped.
Yeah.
2 hours. They saw the fish in the sandbar. And he sat down and cried.
Yeah. I can imagine that. They're phenomenally strong fish, guys. They do not give up. Listen, you get that thing in the shallows.
Run after run,
it's going to run again. It's going to run again.
They've got energy for days.
Yeah.
And because that mouse is fairly soft, they're one of the species you can't just tighten down your drag and crank like we like to do a mussel cracker in it.
You've got to play it soft.
You're going to pull a hook out of that
and be soft arms and quite
soft
on your feet.
Arms, take your patience, keep the line tight on him, and they're fantastic. They're really good eating.
But try not to eat them anymore, guys. They're very scarce.
Their numbers have got scarce, guys. Unfortunately, things like drag nets, they also use estuaries as the breeding grounds area, and our estuaries have taken a serious knock.
With the pollutions and things like that as well,
there are a lot of little white steam bass around.
But there's none of the big...
Don't keep those oaks. The big boys...
Put them back, guys.
A 60 centimeters is considered a fairly good steam bass nowadays. But they do go meter plus.
Yeah.
I've seen like 1.2 meter odd.
Yeah, I've seen some big fish in my days.
There's some big ones.
I've seen some big fish in the Hamburg River. I'm talking 20 years ago.
Time of day we're going to target them?
Same as most guys. Early mornings, late afternoons for me. But you can catch them in the middle of the day.
Yeah. But the one guy who's kind of targeted them at the kids' beach in our locally standing area.
In the night.
Middle of the night.
Okay, is it?
He's using squid baits at night, and he's got a good few 10 kg plus fish. So
you can target them pretty much.
So, and they come in fairly shallow at night.
Yeah.
So it makes it quite easy. If you're not a long distance cast, you don't have to cast 100 meters to get to stem race. No. 50 meter cast, 60 meter cast onto a sandbar, you're probably in deep enough.
Yeah. They're not feeding in deep water at all, guys.
Yeah, basically, I'd say from about waist deep to about
chest deep.
So about chest deep is about your optimum for them. Yeah, they're not a deep water feeder at all. So
they're feeding on crustaceans and stuff. So they're puffing in the sand. So
hopefully, So generally, to sum up our advice, 30-pound braid, go straight into the swivel, nylon trace about 50
for a hook.
Okay, trace wise, nylon what?
Nylon is I'd fish 0.4. I wouldn't fish much heavier than I'd keep it quite
about 0.45 or so, maybe 0.5
at the most.
They've got that sharp gill raker on the side.
You got to watch for that.
You might pick up a few cob in the same. You're offering and pick up cob trying to target them, which is not a bad thing.
Keep it as light as possible that your surroundings allow you to. I think.
Absolutely. So don't go too heavy on that.
Yeah.
And don't go too much cotton. Keep your baits fairly
nice, natural looking, fresh baits.
Yeah.
Fresh worms.
And
fresh crab.
Put some hours in there. Relax. Enjoy. It's one of the fish I've battled to catch on a spike.
Yeah.
It's one of the ones I suggest holding your rod. Right. You want to be aware of that in run, or else you're going to miss half of them. Trust me. Experience that and enjoy. I think they're such a wonderful fish to target. And sadly, the numbers are down.
Yeah.
So let's try to do our very best to conserve it out there, guys.
Okay. Awesome.
And any other Q&A, gladly hooks through to us.
Guys.
We'll try to answer as best we can with our limited experience.
Thanks, Taron. I hope that answers your question and other questions that we actually answered that you didn't even ask, but that's fine. That's what we'd like to do. To give you all the information you want. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining us this week. Aren't we going to run through what's new?
What's new?
So what's new, Don? I'm wearing this beautiful top. It's so comfortable.
If you haven't noticed, these
I actually forgot I was wearing a top. It's so comfortable.
The new Assassin Nano Lights hoodies.
These things are super sick, guys. They look sick. They feel comfortable.
New fabric, new design.
Yeah.
And they've got like a little meshy thing on the side here to keep you cool.
And 100% available in store right now at Bulmoria Fishing Tackle.
Yeah.
Because I've just taken one off the shelf to try on.
The same price as the standard hoodies.
Yeah.
Well, what's cool about a hoodie, guys, we live with our hoodies on, is you tend to go like that. So over the head as well, drawstring, the sun doesn't kill you. If the wind's blowing, you feel okay. You can hang out there a lot longer. You get wet with a wave within half an hour, wind blowing, you dry. Guys, hoodies are the way to go. If you haven't fished with a hoodie yet, you're missing out.
I'd go get yourself one, Brim. I'd definitely get one. This thing's comfortable, guys. I've got some at home that don't feel great.
The fit's like I
actually feel like I forgot that I had a shirt on.
Mine's a bit tighter than usual, but I think I quite like it, actually.
So anyway, guys, come in the store, grab yourself an Assassin hoodie. And
they're doing an incredible clothing range. So
I saw a little nice little puffer jacket as well there earlier.
And they've got some quite cool shorts. Quick dry shorts are awesome as well, and dig fishing of those. So check out the Assassin clothing range. Well worth looking at. Okay,
guys. Well, anyway, thanks for joining us this week. Dean from Untraceable Fishing. Don't forget to like and subscribe us on YouTube. Check out Bulmoria Fishing Tackle on Facebook. Until next week, guys. This was Tackle
Tuesday.